sometimes when a home wants to push somebody out, they may make the case seem more extreme than it is. And maybe for them and in that environment, that is what they got. Like, I don't know. But he at the hospital right now. And they say he don't try to get out the bed. He ain't doing nothing wild. Like, the most we've seen him do is this. In the bed, like, he's chilling. So far, what we're seeing is more positive than what the due diligence was saying it was. So we've said yes to taking on this client. So then I called my friends at APD, which you're gonna hear a lot of negative about them, but so far I'm having a very positive experience. Which relationships, right? That's the homie. When I call and say, hi, this is Antoinette, she goes, oh, hey, because I be calling them all the time, okay? So they all know who I am. And they answer, and when they answer, we have a good rapport. It's a good existing relationship. They have a high impression of me, of our home, and the service that we provide, and they treat us accordingly. We get extra help. I'm getting extra details that I wouldn't otherwise have access to if I didn't have a relationship with that person to be able to call and request that information.
As taxing as it's been, and now we're potentially even adding a fourth full-time client. Can you talk about that experience?
So a referral came out, and really referrals for nursing clients rarely come out, and when they do, they go so quick, like as if where they were going was already predetermined, and they still have to do the paperwork and push the referral out. What? So referral came out for a client. The support plans that they send you, never just take what the words on the paper as the whole story for the patient. Like, you need to do due diligence. Like you would do due diligence on a real estate investment deal. I threw up in my mouth.
I'm like, you need some water? Get that cup of water.
You need to do due diligence on these referrals that came out. So I saw the support plan, and I'm reading, I'm seeing that the individual has some mobility, he can eat, you see his rehab level, but there's no nursing funding attached to him. But he has a G-tube. And so to me, anytime I see somebody with a G-tube, with seizures, with oxygen, immediately those are my triggers for this may require nursing. But he doesn't have the funding. So I called the waiver support coordinator and get some background, which is always going to be limited from the waiver support coordinator. They're going to be able to tell you what their funding is right now, what they're approved for right now, but not necessarily like the details of the client. Then I spoke with mom, who also was not as helpful as I would like, because once he moved into that group home, she wasn't as involved in the day-to-day. So then, of course, I called the group home that he's coming from, and they can give you the real on the patient. They can tell you like what their day-to-day is like, behaviors, moods, just different things about their personality. But through those 3 stories, there was still something not adding up. Like, one, why doesn't this person who clearly needs nursing based on his medical workup and what I'm hearing from the group home not have it? 2, there are other things that I'm noticing that are missing. Like, this individual is crawling around on the floor every day, but he doesn't have a wheelchair. It's like, okay, this is like a paraplegic. Why does he have a wheelchair? Now I'm wondering, well, what kind of bed does he have if he's mobile and getting himself around, and couldn't get a clear answer on that. So then I called my friends at APD, which you're going to hear a lot of negative about them, but so far I'm having a very positive experience. And so I talked to the nursing team there, and they agree. They're like, yeah, this person should have nursing. We wrote our workup conclusion and recommendation was that they should get nursing, but we think that the request was never made for that. And I'm just like, that can't be true, because I talked to the group homeowner and I talked to the waiver support coordinator, and they told me that they requested all these things and they were denied. Well, I go back and I'm like, send me the documents. Send me what you submitted with your request. And I review it, and they didn't request nursing services. And they didn't have like the paperwork necessary to get that if they had submitted that request.
We were trying to figure out, because she was shocked as well that nursing wasn't approved. So when you guys submitted the last SANS in August, I know you submitted a request for extensive 1, but on that request, did you guys also request residential nursing?
Um, when I submitted it, it was expensive too.
Okay.
APD approved it for extensive 1. They say they weren't going to do extensive 2
Okay. And
because that was the group home wanted. APD knew that it was nursing services was not requested.
it was not
We were shooting for
requested.
extensive. Yeah, it was not. We were
Gotcha.
shooting for extensive 2. Now.
A referral came out with an individual and it didn't have any nursing attached. But based on the description of the individual's needs, I can see clearly that he needs nursing. I call around. APD is on board with providing nursing. The doctor's notes are supporting nursing, but it turns out that the waiver support coordinator did not request nursing. But the waiver support coordinator requested at the direction of the group home. The group home did not request nursing. But they're up in arms and upset that they never received nursing and didn't get nursing, but they didn't request it. So I'm going to take this patient that just got dumped at a hospital and put out because he didn't have nursing, but you don't get what you don't ask for. And so I will fix it, make sure he gets nursing, and then patient number, what he is? 5-4 will be in. And then the house will be but full because we're going to hold a bed for Michael and we're on to the next house.
So this is a client, a good client, because we went to visit him at the hospital, and based on the feedback from the nurses that had been with him, they're saying he's very good. He's not in there causing any trouble. He's not hurting himself or anyone else, which is great. What else?
And you guys sat and observed him for an hour each day.
We've been twice, and we sit and observe just to kind of see, because you have 3 different stories from 3 different people, but the truth is going to be the client. And even still, him being in that environment, you're still not going to know his full story until he's with you. But so far, what we're seeing is more positive than what the due diligence was saying it was. So we've said yes to taking on this client. But of course, from the last 3 move-ins, we learned something from every move-in. We always push our move-ins out for 30 days to allow us to do some groundwork stuff. So immediately what we'll work on, and we have 4 weeks to achieve, is when he doesn't have a wheelchair, he needs one. So the moment I sign an admission form saying I'm going to accept him, I'm going to get permission from the parent, and we're going to go to work on building out the profile of all the things that he needs. So the first thing is getting him a PT evaluation and get fitted for a wheelchair. We're going to do that while he's still in the hospital, because I'm trying to reduce the amount of time that he's in the home without one. So if I can get started now, and then we're going through 4 weeks before he moves in, I shaved off a month of the 2-month wait time for that wheelchair. So we're going to work on the wheelchair first. I need to go to the group home that he moved out of to see what type of bed he has, because then we may need to move forward with ordering a new bed for him.
Speaking of beds, they mentioned that he broke a hospital bed before.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
We spoke briefly a little bit last night via text, and I was just calling to see if now would be a good time to get some additional info for me. Can you tell me a little bit about the type of environment or what you're looking for a placement for?
A safe place.
Okay. Well, that part's easy for us.
What is your board rate? Your room and board rate?
So it depends. We usually do it by a percentage of their Social Security. So I can give you the averages here. Our range has been between $600 and $750 for the residents we have currently. But it's based on, but if an individual comes and their Social Security is lower, we try to stay within what they have so the families aren't coming out of pocket.
So he has complex medical issues, but he also has complex behavioral issues.
Okay. Can you tell me about those?
Tear his clothes up sometimes, which he seems to do more during the winter period, because there's not as much sun.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said he has SAD, seasonal affective disorder. He has been known to jump on his hospital bed and pretty much almost fracture it in 2.
Wow. Okay.
That's what they said. But he at the hospital right now, and they say he don't try to get out the bed. He ain't doing nothing wild. The most we've seen him do is this. in the bed, like he's chilling. Sometimes when a home wants to push somebody out, they may make the case seem more extreme than it is. And maybe for them and in that environment, that is what they got. Like, I don't know. But from our assessments, we're willing to give it a shot to see what it really is. What else? Oh, we're going to have to submit a SANS request for nursing.
We learned
And
the
I
SANS
want that
request.
submitted before he moves in. So while he's still in the hospital, I'll work with the doctors there to get like the letters of medical necessity that I need to justify the request for nursing, so we can get all that submitted before he comes.
We learned what SANS stands for.
Oh, what is it?
Supplemental out of submission. I don't remember.
Exactly.
You wrote it down. But Joe also explained to us a different type of funding, how because there's no funding when a client is going from group home to group home, but
There is funding. So when a client is coming from home onto the APD waiver in their homes, they don't have a funding package yet. So APD has a budget to use for that, like introductory funding. It's called IF, and I already forgot what IF means. Let's say intermediary funding. That sounds good. I like that. And they'll give enough for about 2 months, because it takes 30 days for an actual SANS request. So someone coming out of home, they're going to move into a group home. They're going to have 2 months of this IF funding. And your job is to submit your SANS as quickly as possible so that the SANS can be approved by the state and funded to start when that IF funding ends. If you're already in APD, though, you have funding package. So he has a funding package already. So if he moves into our home, he's going to move in with that approved funding, which is just ResHab.
at which level? Because what they did achieve in
Yes, he has an extensive 1 level of ResHab. So that's what he's going to move in as. The SANS that I'm submitting a request for is going to request 24-hour nursing and a moderate level of ResHab. The reason I would drop the ResHab level from extensive 1 to moderate is because that's how they pair 24-hour nursing and ResHab. You cannot get a higher ResHab level other than moderate if you are receiving 24 hours of nursing. So that's just how they pair the package. Now, I'm not going to put in my request, reduce it to moderate. I'm going to let them do that. If they give me extensive 1 with 24 hours of ResHab, that's their own problem. I'm going to request my 24 hours of nursing.
So yeah, the patient visits are going well. You said we pushed the move out typically 30 days out, right? But I think you were talking to the head of the case managers, and she was like, she wouldn't even be able to get to his file for 2 weeks.
The referral coordinator, she's not going to be able to have a transition call. So anytime before anybody moves into a home, there's a transition call scheduled with like the family and the receiving group home to just coordinate and all align on what the funding is, dates, all that stuff. She is booked up, so she's not able to schedule a transition call till 2 weeks out. And I was like, cool, no problem. We usually like 30 days to pull this off. So for the next month, he'll probably still be in the hospital waiting for us to complete all of our processes.
Okay. And another member of the medical case management team, she's leaving.
Oh yeah, and that part. Like, so the person that has to do the initial review and recommend nursing that gets submitted with the SANS, she's going on vacation for 2 weeks. And so that kind of works out. What she told me was, I'm leaving for 2 weeks. If you send me this initial thing that I need today, I will work on it today before I leave. So you guys at least have it and are rolling. But by the time she gets back, we'll just be getting to the transition call anyway. So it works out. But I do appreciate her for giving me the heads up, letting me know that she's leaving, and giving us the opportunity to turn in the first part of the request today so she could get started. Because she had already done this review, and she's basically like, I'm not about to come to any different conclusion. So go ahead and send it to me. I can do my review and resubmit that same document. That way, you guys aren't losing time while I'm gone. Which, relationships, right? That's the homie. When I call and say, hi, this is Antoinette. She goes, oh, hey, because I be calling they all the time. Okay. So they all know who I am. And they answer, and when they answer, we have a good rapport. It's a good existing relationship. They have a high impression of me, of our home, and the service that we provide, and they treat us accordingly. We get extra help. I'm getting extra details that I wouldn't otherwise have access to if I didn't have a relationship with that person to be able to call and request that information.
I love that. Like, I can think of so many instances in just recent memory where people who work in public service come through. Like the variance meeting that we had in the building department manager, Brad, standing on business, supporting the code and saying,
Listen,
he
you
had
gotta
my
be on
back.
camera if you want to talk about
Shut up, girl.
Okay.
But, and now this with, or like when called you at 8:00 on the weekend?
Mm-hmm.
On a weekend? On a Saturday? It said, hey, I noticed that you weren't coming up, and so let me go in the system, see what's going on. Oh, let me fix this problem that's in a whole nother area that I don't even deal with no more, but I got you. I love that.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm having a good time working with APD so far. Yeah.
That's dope. Some people want to kill them.
Many people do, but that's their experience. This is mine.
I love that you're making lemonade out of lemons. You mentioned something about having the current WSC submit MCM funding before doing a seance. What is that?
Not MCM funding. MCM review.
Medical case management. That's what it is.
Okay, medical case management review. When you're trying to request a different funding level for an individual, the team at APD needs to come out and assess that individual and be able to state, this is what we think the individual needs in terms of services and funding. So she comes out and does that review first. And well, she did do one. She came out, did that review, and her recommendation was, yes, due to these medical complications, this individual, we recommend him receiving residential nursing, which is perfect, right? Because you can't submit a SANS to Tallahassee and get nursing if the MCM review is not saying they probably need this. Like, your MCM review is what is going to direct Tallahassee's decision, essentially. So you can't, like, out of nowhere just send a letter and say, hey, I think XYZ needs this. That's not going to get approved. So that's step one. You include that with your SANS, and the SANS should also include like your documentation justifying the recommendation and what you're suggesting. So doctor's notes, letter of medical necessity, like quarterly reports, annual reports, any documentation you have showing the why, and a letter written by you as well explaining why you're making the request.
Which needs to be based in your understanding of the
It
iBudget
needs
waiver.
to speak their language. You need to open that iBudget waiver handbook and go look at the requirements for that level, extensive 1, extensive 2, residential, whatever it is, and make sure you're using that language out of there to build your
and
case.
make sure not only you are using it, but the professionals, i.e. the doctors' letters that you're getting.
Correct. When I ask for a doctor's note, I send a thorough email and say, this is a doctor note I need. I need it to say these things. Here are the key points that it needs to speak to. And here's an example attached of a previous letter that we have that we have used. And generally they just copy and paste what I put in the email, and that's what goes on the doctor's note.
Because we've talked about how many clients they got to see in a day sometimes, 30, 40, 50, 60.
So the more work you can do for them, the faster you're going to get what you need from them. And that's just like, I don't want you to think. We've done all the thinking and the legwork, Doc. I just need you to sign off. Read it, you agree, and they copy and paste, put it, and send me back my letter.
And so that's how you build your case for your SANS request for the funding. And for parents, what participation level do parents have to have in that?
The parents usually are the ones who have to get the doctor's note, but I find that the parents, they are also busy and they don't have the time either. So like the first time we did a review for a patient coming from a parent home, we let the parent submit doctor's notes. And all she submitted was like visit summaries from when he would go to the doctor for a cold or this or that. That's not the same thing as a letter of medical necessity saying that a client needs to receive 24-hour nursing care. So we had to do it a second time because I let the parent do it the first time. Second time, I went physically to all the doctor's offices to have these conversations and to get what I needed. And moving forward, I will continue to do that. So the parent, you don't have to do nothing. Just tell the doctor to talk to me and I will do the rest. Because they don't know what they're looking for. They don't need to have to learn that. That's not useful information for them in the future. And they're busy with their other kids and jobs and all that stuff. So the parent just needs to give me access and approval to do what I need to do.
Okay. Family Cafe. What is that? What are we going to do? Why are we going?
Miss Connie has been secretly puppeteering some business activities since day one, and she don't even know it. I didn't even realize it, but I'm starting to see. And her latest command has been to attend the Family Café conference, which is a conference held in Orlando every year for the last 24 years for special needs individuals and their families. And so we signed up for that to be like a vendor. We'll have a booth there to share information about our group home. And then her latest was, you should present. And so now we're presenting at the Family Café conference to share information and promote our group home. What we're going to talk about, because we do residential nursing, we're going to talk about like medical group homes and just things to know about them that the families may not already know. Because everybody, I think, has some awareness of group homes, but I think parents with like medically complex individuals, there may be less information about that, and they may think, okay, well, my kid can't go into the group home because they have these extra special needs. So we're going to talk about the services that medical group homes offer, and also just say, hey, these things do exist. There are these resources for you, families with medically complex individuals. And that'll be in June.
We're going to do a whole thing. We working that thing.
They don't need to know yet. I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. We come back and show them what we did.
That's fine. So you got a compliment recently from someone who visited your group home.
It's not a compliment. It's a given. I don't view this as
It's a big deal.
Somebody came to the consultant came and she did a tour, and halfway through the tour she stops and looks at me very earnestly and was like, I don't smell anything, which is a compliment on her part because many facilities have this pissy smell about them that I just don't understand. But to me, it is a given. I don't take that as a compliment. It is what should be. Why should the house be stank? Like the fact that, whatever. That's what she said. She meant it as a compliment. I appreciate that. But to me, that's how it should be. The moment I open the door, I smell everything that's happening, and immediately I'm like, what happened? Who did what? Let's figure out and solve it, because I cannot be over here and smell this, and neither can they.
Mind you, we got a bloodhound over here who can just smell anything from a mile away.
My nose is very sensitive, so I require a scentless.
Well, let me provide some context. An individual who has over a decade plus of experience in this space, working at the residential and commercial level at scale, was impressed with your operational execution.